Ever wonder what actually goes on in those long city council meetings? You know, while you're busy with your own life, major decisions are being made that shape our community, from new construction to who's in charge. Well, you don't have to wonder anymore. We've dug through all the official documents to give you the highlights from Quinlan City Council for the first 3 months of the year.
All right, so here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll get into leadership and a pretty interesting election results. Then we're going to look at a big new partnership that's all about future growth. After that, we'll talk about some much-needed upgrades to the city's bones. We'll also hit on public safety, and then we'll wrap it all up and talk about what it means for you.
So let's kick things off with Section 1, Your Voice, Your Council. This is all about the people making the calls, the elected officials and key city staff. And believe me, the start of 2026 had a very interesting twist when it came to the city election.
Okay, check this out. This timeline tells a whole story. Back in January, everything looked normal. The council ordered an election for May to fill 3 seats. Standard stuff. But fast forward to March, and the election is canceled. So what happened? Well, it turns out every single candidate ran completely unopposed.
So what does that mean? Well, with nobody running against them, these candidates were automatically declared the winners. So let's give a shout out to your newly confirmed council members, Susan Hernandez in place 1, Tommy Underwood in place 3, and Miguel Serrano in place 5. They'll be serving a 2-year term.
And hey, it wasn't just the elected council seats getting sorted out. The council was also busy filling some really key roles in the city's justice system. In January, they accepted a judge's resignation, and by March, they had already appointed a new municipal judge, an associate judge, and a brand new city prosecutor. They made sure all those vital legal roles were filled and ready to go.
All right, with a solid council in place, what's next? Well, the city started looking toward the future, and that brings us right into our next section, new development on the horizon. Early this year, the council greenlit a pretty big agreement that's really setting the stage for some major growth here in Quinlan.
Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty, let's just quickly break down a term you're about to see, an MOU. That stands for Memorandum of Understanding. The easiest way to think of it is like a formal handshake on paper. It's not the final, super detailed contract, but it's the document that says, hey, we're all serious about this and we're on the same page. It's a huge first step for any big project.
And here it is, the big news. Way back at their January 12th meeting, the City Council gave the thumbs up to an MOU and a payment agreement to go with it. This move officially kicked off a partnership for a new development project, which really shows a lot of confidence in where Quinlan is headed.
So who's the city teaming up with? The agreement is with 2 private developers, Cypress Park LLC and Safari Development Services LLC. This type of public-private partnership is super common for cities. It basically combines the city's oversight with the money and know-how from the private sector to get big, important projects built.
Of course, you can't have all this new growth without a solid foundation, right? And that leads us to our third section, upgrading Quinlan's infrastructure. The council's been taking some really important steps to make sure our city's essential services can handle what we need today and what we're going to need tomorrow.
One of the biggest moves here happened in February. The council approved what's called a professional water and wastewater rate study. Now, this isn't just about changing prices. It's a deep dive into our whole system. The idea is to see what we've got now, figure out what we'll need as the city grows, and then come up with a fair rate system to pay for all the upkeep and improvements. In fact, that same month, the council even took a tour of the city's utility plants to see it all for themselves.
And speaking of gearing up for the future, the council also got an update on new electric vehicle charging stations. These are planned for the parking lot at the Quinlan Police Department. It might seem like a small thing, but it's a really important step in supporting newer, greener technologies for all of us.
Okay, let's shift gears and talk about something that hits close to home for everyone, keeping our community safe. This past quarter, the council had to deal with some specific neighborhood issues while also handling all the routine but totally vital public safety stuff.
This whole thing started back in January with a conversation about a property over at 309 Greenway. It was flagged as a substandard structure, which is just the official term for a building that's run down, unsafe, and bringing down the whole neighborhood.
And this is a perfect example of how the city tackles these problems. After that first discussion, they held a public hearing in February. And right after that, the council took action, officially calling the building a public nuisance. That legal step is what gives the city the power to make sure the property gets fixed up or taken down, which is a direct win for the neighbors. Beyond that one issue, the council was definitely staying on top of the regular safety beat. They got their monthly reports from the fire department, and the Quinlan Police Department presented its annual racial profiling report, which is a standard part of being transparent with the community. And on a much lighter note, they also approved the dates for the Chunk Your Junk spring cleanup, a great event that helps everyone keep the town looking sharp.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground, from elections to development to safety. So what does it all add up to? Let's tie it all together in our last section, what this means for you. When you connect all the dots, you start to see a clear strategy. First, the council made sure leadership was stable by getting the new council members in and filling those key legal jobs. They're getting ahead of growth by creating this new development partnership. They're modernizing our city's foundation by planning for future utility needs and bringing in things like EV chargers. And they're keeping our community standards high by dealing with problem properties and supporting great events.
All of this really shows a city council that's trying to manage the day-to-day while also planning for a bigger, better future. So we'll leave you with this question. As Quinlan keeps growing and changing, what's most important to you? Is it the roads, new parks, more local businesses? Your voice is a really important part of this whole story.